Hello, everyone. I'm Stanley Smith, and I'm here with Mathew McLain, or Matt, or other names you might have. We don't know. We're open to anything here because this is part of Connecting Consciousness, and we're here in Illinois, and we've only been going here for a couple months now, but we're really connecting the dots on the topics and these people who seem to have some level of expertise in these different areas. So one topic that does come up quite often, Matthew, which you've heard, are the med beds. And then we also threw in space aliens and UFOs into your topic bin today. But we'll start off with the med beds because that seems to be your best, your most well versed in that topic, and then we'll see how far we get with the other things. But welcome, Matthew. It's so fun to have these one-on-ones with these with all of our Illinois Connecting Consciousness members. So welcome.
Thank you very much. Nice to see you, Stanley. Now, I don't know if you wanted to ask any questions initially, or did you want me to just kind of discuss med beds in general?
I have lots of questions, but I really consider myself a moderator, so I'm not really particularly passionate in any particular area, or even that well versed in a lot of the areas. But med beds is a topic I'm really thin on. So maybe if you want to explain what people believe med beds to be, how they envision them, and how they think they're going to be useful, how they're going to be rolled out. I know we've heard that each state is going to get a healing center, and we're assuming that each state will it'll include a med bed. But why don't you tell us what the hell a med bed is?
Sure. Well, med beds are kind of an introduction to quantum healing. From what I actually did a lot of research on this in the past, and some of it's been forgotten. I had to review it a little bit. I took some notes, so if I refer to my notes, I apologize, because there's a lot of information I took down. I went deep because of my background. I was a medical device rep for 17 years with multiple companies, and before that, a pharmaceutical rep for 4.5 years. Now I'm a health insurance and life insurance broker, so I kind of stayed in the general healthcare industry. But med beds are kind of really interesting to me, and it's a suppressed technology that if anyone has any kind of knowledge of med beds, they probably know they've been here for a while, at least since right around the mid-century, last century.
But Matthew, how are you defining a med bed then? How are you defining it? What is it?
Sure,
is it physically a thing?
Well, there's 3 types of med beds, and I'm going to kind of skip because you're asking a specific question. I want to make sure that I answer correctly. So the 3 medbed types, they work on quantum level using vibrations and frequencies with a combination of 3D scanners and refracting lenses, as well as surgical precise lasers for opening and closing wounds. They have a multitude of diagnostic and monitoring technologies that keep the practitioner fully informed during repair and it's minimally invasive. All 3 med beds use similar tech. There's 3 types of med beds, but are adapted for 3 different uses. And the first is a holographic med bed. And that's basically, can perform live scans of the body for diagnosis, and as well as treatment of and it treats any illnesses that it finds with much greater accuracy in far less time and far less invasive for the human vessel, for the body. It scans and treats the skin, muscles, bones, organs, what else? Glands, neurological and hormonal efficiencies, as well as blood, and analyzes DNA. So it looks for and can correct any hereditary markers for certain illnesses, providing a quick and painless analysis for the entire physical system. Any surgery needed will be done immediately, including appendix, heart surgeries, C-sections, any kind of surgeries. It would be able to do it from diagnostic right into surgery. The features, to kind of help you visualize it, the features are kind of like an airtight see-through operating shield to reduce germs and kind of alleviate claustrophobia. It's got comfortable limb rests, liquid spray anesthetic component to it for the surgeries, It uses laser scalpels and laser mirrors. I'm not sure what laser mirrors are, but it's something I'm probably going to look into. I just thought I'd write that down. It also looks at vital signs, sensorings, and displays that. Diagnostic and analysis identification, and it has computer controlled surgical arms. So it's it's a very interesting, the way I think it. I've seen other kind of podcasts that kind of say it's in a hexagon room with a glass shield in front of like some sort of Tesla generating type technology that helps in terms of and there's like a kind of like something like a massage table. It's in this small 8-foot diameter room that you lay on. But that's just for these holographic medical beds. So there's, from what I understand, there's all sorts of different types and looks to med beds, and different alien races and stuff might have a different look to a med beds. I even heard the Great Pyramid has a sort of a sarcophagus that's at the base of the pyramid. And I guess one story I learned a little bit about was, I guess Hitler had been there, and he spent the night laying in this sarcophagus because apparently it had some sort of healing component to it.
Matthew, a lot of people think you probably should have stayed there.
I wish you did. Yeah.
But Matthew, but that brings up, I guess that is a question. So has anybody seen a med bed, or are these the UFOs of this new technology? Like, no one's really seen one or cited one, or
supposedly the people who have been able to take advantage of these med beds are the elites, certain elites, maybe the Rothschilds, Rockefeller class, not so much the Clinton class. They're a few pegs down the pyramid, but the Illuminati pyramid, if you will, but also the secret space program. The secret space program that's been around since pretty much close to the Roswell crash in 1947. The secret space program basically, this is off subject, but from what I understand in watching podcasts of people like Michael Jaco, who has been involved in this secret space program and has memories of it, they will take a person and bring them into the secret space program, have them in it for 20 years, usually a 20-year stint, and then put them right back in the time and place they took them from, age regress them, and wipe their memory, and just have them live their life. So they're basically, I guess you could call it a little bit of a non-voluntary engagement or a draft, but they don't remember it. So and people, like Michael Jaco remembers, being in med beds, and you can look up the topic Michael Jaco and med beds. He's had some really interesting people on his show that also have had memories of their stints in the secret space program. And
okay.
Sorry.
So we hadn't really fleshed that out as even as a thesis or a topic for this discussion, but as I'm listening to it, I'm thinking, okay, so are med beds similar to the UFO story, that it's a theory and is anecdotal evidence, and some people have had encounters or experience, but we don't know for sure. Is that a way to describe it?
No, I've never seen one, so I'm going off of my intuition in what I've read and what I've heard people talk about, and I believe it to be true. So I have a tendency to be an intuitive person.
Well, that's very interesting. It's also probably a more helpful direction, because like you mentioned, I was talking to you earlier, like where does that really get us, a flying saucer or a spacecraft? But healing or some sort of a treatment or a medical med bed, that would get us somewhere. Mm-hmm. That would be a UFO worth tracking down, because that could help mankind.
Absolutely. But let me go on. These med beds, they're built with a very restrictive artificial intelligence, apparently, something that needs human connection to work, and it creates a cooperative measure that ensures cooperative coexistence of the system and the physician and the patient. The computer used to operate it is very kind of similar to an MRI, and except in that the magnets and radiation aren't there, and it uses plasmatic energy apparently, and basically to work with you on a subatomic and vibrational level. Since this is a vibrational universe and we're vibrational beings, this is a very homeopathic approach, and to healing, which offers a lot of benefits apparently to us, being minimally invasive and doesn't leave side effects and scars and stuff like that.
And all the energy you need to exert to recover. So now, are we still in the first type of med bed?
Yeah, so I'm kind of moving into the next, about to go into, so what kind of a summary is what that means is no more, just imagine, no more long waiting times. Initially, the med beds aren't going to be rolling out everywhere in every little town, right? But they certainly will be in a few states very shortly, I believe. Simon Parks mentioned in updates and things like that, and it's hard. I was looking at I was typing Simon Parks med beds, trying to remember which episodes I watched, but it's hard to find his med bed talks because it's in there with updates, and but he had mentioned he's going to be part of the rollout in the US for med beds, and I'm sure other places in the world. And initially, I think they're going to show up in Florida, Texas, and I also believe he mentioned possibly California as the first 3 states. And those people who are thinking they're going to be first in line are going to have to wait, because the people that they're going to be focused on initially are the children, that we all, if we're watching this podcast, many of us are aware of what's been going on throughout generations and even millennia with children being trafficked, and I'm not even going to go through the other words because they're just low energy words, but they also are going to be treating the military, who witnessed a lot of this and who saved these children who are probably scarred with PTSD.
Yes.
And possibly injured from the World War III that we're involved in right now that nobody really knows about, unless they're paying attention. But so say goodbye to chemotherapy and say goodbye to people dying of stroke and heart disease once these things are more throughout the world. I mean, there's enough med beds right now, from what I understand, to have one in every country, and they're going to be rolling out in all the countries that have signed up for NESARA and GESARA, and that's 205 at least that I've seen. The number 205, I've seen that mentioned or read that or seen in a podcast. And those countries are going to have this technology almost immediately after signing up with NESARA and GESARA. And eventually, every state in the US should have them. And hopefully every major city, and then maybe it'll expand from there into smaller satellite cities. I'm not sure. But the second bed is the Regeneration med bed. This is pretty fun stuff. I mean, I don't know why anyone wouldn't want to hear about this stuff. I mean,
yeah, this is fascinating. This is all new to me. I just keep hearing med bed, and I don't know.
Yeah, well, if you want to create a picture, a lot of this technology has been in movies like Resident Evil. If you recall, they found a glove with a hand in it of this alien, and they put it in the med bed, and they basically 3D printed the new body, that the original body of this, using the DNA from that. So that's technically what the Regeneration med bed kind of can do. You've seen it also in Prometheus. I don't know if anyone saw that movie. It's related to the Alien movies. And there was a med bed scene in that. That was pretty interesting. So they're in movies. A couple others I wanted to mention, if I can find them, is
so Regeneration would be if you had a catastrophic loss.
Yeah, so they're especially useful for anyone in need of an organ transplant, organ replacement, missing or severed limbs, or skin grafts for third-degree burns, etc. And these beds focus on working with your DNA templates using a harmonic resonance field, which is still present within your body's cellular memory. And it can explain something that I kind of thought of before I actually saw it in this podcast. Right after I thought of it, was, oh, that's like phantom limb. Like, if you've ever had
Yes.
heard
Yes.
that someone can lose an arm and they have this phantom limb, they can feel it. They feel like they still have that limb. That's in their cellular memory. And so it uses that to kind of, and your DNA to kind of reconstruct that limb, and have a seamless, new arm, new leg, new eye, a new ear, whatever might need to be grafted. And these beds will change the lives of many people, and the applications are endless. I mean, you can imagine anything that needs to be regenerated, like my messed up pinky. I can say, oh, what, I want to snip that off and start from scratch. So the entire healthcare system is about to change and become a health support and rejuvenation system. If you think about the broken system we live in, healthcare is one of the biggest. You look at our premiums, look at our out-of-pocket maxima. I'm a health insurance broker. People with diabetes can't, who have a job that they make decent money at, and they don't get qualified for subsidies, they're expected at 55 to be paying $1,000-$1,200 premium times
Yes.
12 a month, a year, times 12 a year, plus another $8,550 out of pocket maximum a year.
Yeah.
Every year.
Yeah.
That's like having two mortgages or worse.
It's not insurance. It's a payment plan. That's how I've seen it for many years.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah. I mean, it's the healthcare system is broken because it breaks people. It's the number one health insurance, or sorry, medical related bills are the number one reason why people go into bankruptcy. Or at least that's part of the checklist of the reasons why they're going into bankruptcy. 60-70% of the time, medical bills are part of that, in a big way, for their reasoning to go into bankruptcy. So we live in a broken system, and we need to, find our way out of these things. All sorts of things just eat up all of our resources, including taxes and all this, and it really leaves us with scraps. And that's what we see, and I think that's what everyone out there is experiencing, unless they're in a extraordinary high percentage of the class system. They're in the top 1% or 2%.
This is Connecting Consciousness, Illinois, Matthew. So I don't think that's most of us. But before you tell us about the third type of med bed, just out of curiosity, when you were selling the medical devices, what were some of the most popular devices? What were you selling then?
Well, funny that you asked that. I've actually sold two products. I worked for a company called AGA, and they had what were called Amplatzer devices. I was in the peripheral division. I sold vascular plugs that were basically designed to be released through catheters, minimally invasive procedures, by different types of doctors, whether they're interventional radiologists, vascular surgeons, interventional cardiologists, not so much the cardiologists with this product, but they would use these products, place them in a vessel to form clot. They were like a nitinol mesh disc that would basically pop out of the catheter with a shape memory nitinol metal, which is nickel aluminum alloy. Funny that I'm mentioning this. I also sold a catheter that had a nitinol tip to it with another company, Biosphere Medical, when I was selling microspheres that were basically injected through these same types of catheters to block blood flow to tumors, and they were used for uterine fibroid embolization, chemoembolization. Well, the vascular plugs were for larger vessels. Microspheres would go in small vessels and kind of go down using the flow of the blood into the small microvasculature, block the blood flow, and basically create a stop for the blood flow into that area of whatever you're embolizing, whether it's a tumor or an AVM, and it would basically be curative in some cases, things like uterine fibroid embolizations, and palliative in some cases, like for chemoembolization. But anyway, the nitinol is an interesting subject on its own. Another tangent I'm going to go on is and anyone can Google this. Google FBI documents, nitinol, and alien technology. Nitinol is one of those alien technologies that apparently we've learned about from UFO crash sites and things like that. So we reverse engineered and created nitinol, and it's a shape memory metal. So you can have a disc or discs that like are right next to each other that has a thin in between and then discs out again. And for the atrial septal defects in the heart, they will pop out one disc and put the catheter through the defect in the heart, the hole in the heart between the two atriums, and have it pop open on one side, pull it back, and have the other side pop open, sandwich it shut, and it would create kind of a graft for skin to grow over, and it would basically close off that through clotting, and then eventually just skin grafting through normal biological means. But it's an interesting product, and the wire worked in similar ways. So,
and then when you were selling it, was it already an existing product, or did you roll it out as a new introduction?
The vascular plugs were an existing product, but were never focused on. And they created a vascular plug sales force to kind of get that up and running a little bit more. And then the nitinol wire was an add-on. I had been selling the microspheres for years with Biosphere, and that was added on in the last couple of years of me being with them. It was just a guide wire that was used, just provided a unique mechanism that might have had a leg up on some of the competition, just because of the way it worked. But anyway, that's my tangent. I'm going to go into something. And I feel free to Google that. NITNIOL. So no, NITINOL, right? Nitinol. So that's an interesting product.
You've seen what you believe to be innovations in technology in the field that you attribute to
it's nothing big.
Alien,
what do you think
alien.
I don't think we went to garage size computers to this in a matter of 40 years without some help. So I'm guessing there's probably things all around us that are reverse engineered technologies that have been seeping out. They keep the good stuff, the groundbreaking stuff like free energy, med beds, stuff for them and not for us, but they are advancing our technologies in certain areas with some of this technology. I'm sure it's being reverse engineered or technologies.
Okay, well that's a very good point. That's a really good illustration. And then the third type of med bed.
The third type is age and memory regression. That everyone wants to call me view.
Memory. I'm lucky if I can remember your name, Matthew.
Well, it's for things like traumatic memories, like PTSD. Return you, and it also for the age regression stuff, it can return you into a more youthful appearance and feel, tightening the skin, improving your youthful muscle tone, improving all senses, especially things like sight, hearing, and taste. It works with your own DNA template and multiple refractory lenses, similar to the other beds, and as well as your body's natural internal clock. They will be able to perform these procedures pain-free. They use plasmatic energies, not radioactive materials, focusing instead on recalibration and regeneration wherever possible. This allows the user to return to optimal health in very little time. Imagine what this can mean. I mean, obviously for humanity, if we regularly, use age regression medbed. You know, I'm guessing that we might have 1,000-year life cycle eventually. Human beings are not meant to live only 78 years, 80 years. We've been poisoned, you know, through our foods, the FDA, you know, approved nonsense that they put in our foods and in our drugs. The Rockefellers were involved in the whole pharmaceutical industry, and they've, ever since the early 1900s, they basically suppressed all homeopathic, you know, therapies, and basically ruined lives of anybody who would come out, any doctors who would come out to try to bring these homeopathic remedies that were sound and worked for decades, and if not, you know, centuries and millennia, to heal us. And they've gone away from that and basically used petroleum-based products and drugs that in part are poisoning us, you know, or are at best treating symptoms rather than curing us, right?
Yes, that's how I understand it. You're right.
Yeah. So besides that, let's see what else.
Well,
Oh,
Matthew,
I have the Simon Parks things that I kind of talked about, and how it's going to be in Florida, Texas, and just want to see if there's any additional. He also mentioned, yeah, he'll initially be using it for the children in the military. So once that all happens, you know, I think we're all next. You know, we're next in line, and we'll be able to start taking advantage of this. And sure, we might have to travel initially a little further, but hopefully, you know, we can go and get a full treatment, walk away completely healthy, and you know, we won't have to make a lot of repeat visits to the doctor anymore, you know? So it's pretty exciting stuff. And that kind of concludes the med bed section. I want to see if I had any other, you know, in terms of suppressed technology, I just wanted to kind of mention a couple of things. There's repressed technologies that are replicators that basically can generate anything that we want, you know? You know, we want a gold bar. It can replicate a gold bar. The wants and needs in our financially kind of like poisoned society are going to go away. You know, if you want an apple, you can create one. These replicators, this replicator technology, I believe, does exist, similar to the Stargate technology, the Project Looking Glass technology that allows you to see into the past or in the future. From what I understand, time is a construct, you know, so it's something that we've created in our head, a linear time, and that's not really reality. You know, it's kind of folded on top of each other, and we can experience past, present, and future all at once. And that's our sort of baseline human state. We should be able to do this. We just forgot. I think we've been able to do it in the past. I don't think we're actually evolving. I think we're right now remembering, you know, what we've known and forgotten after, you know, centuries or millennia of suppression. So that's the medbed stuff. It's pretty fun, and a lot of these suppressed technologies are of real big interest to a lot of people, I suppose.
well, our topics were med beds and space aliens and UFOs, but actually, I think you included quite a bit of the suppressed technology as, you know, basically being part of the UFO story. So that was
Yeah.
very interesting. Adds a good you know, tie-in with the whole subject matter. But also, I'm curious to know from your marketing and sales standpoint, when the topic of med beds comes up, I said, because I don't know a lot about it, I'm always kind of dismissive of the whole term med bed that people use without really knowing what they're talking about. Do you see it being rolled out as something called med bed, or will it be called something different in different places and different? You mentioned the 3 different kinds, so is it going to be just parsed out as a new innovation or a new technology and not really presented the way we've keep hearing it framed as a
Good question.
all-encompassing entity?
I don't think all alien races call it medbed. Obviously, even if they have a different language, it's probably not called medbed in that language. I think that's, you know, kind of the human
Well, Just because I find it annoying, the whole concept of when you're sick
got a good
and
ring
you
to
have
it.
to crawl into bed. I just think that's so, where did that even come from? I do think people like Florence Nightingale, that was the convention of her day.
Yeah.
But it seems like an antiquated idea that you're walking around 1 minute, you're sick, and then you're gonna lay down and put covers over you. It's just the convention of being sick is annoying to me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't think the ancient Egyptians called it a med bed when they laid in a sarcophagus at the base of the pyramid to heal themselves or whatever they were. Apparently, that technology existed back then. But it's kind of like a sarcophagus, a stone thing that they laid in. But I understand that there are different types of med beds and different races of aliens. Like some you stand up in, some
But
you don't lay down on.
Marketing standpoint, what do you think we could call them besides med beds? Just to help me out with my annoyance of the term. What else could we call it? Or do you think it could be called?
Gosh.
Alternative healing, advanced healing, technological, resonance. You mentioned the resonance and the vibration.
Like resonance or vibrational healing pods, something like that. I mean, like you can certainly, why does medbed bother you? The name of, I guess I came from the medical industry, so med.
Well, I guess I feel the word medical is a malign term. There have been so many abuses and missteps and, the whole pharmaceutical thing. And then I said, and my hang up with the bed, because someone asked me early on in this topic, like, how can I get an appointment to get into one of these? And I just thought, well, that's also the wrong question. Like appointment, like that's also part of an antiquated hierarchical system of rationing, which I'm hoping this will not be. I'm sure it'll be limited, but I just hope we're not going to just extrapolate these same tired conventions to a new technology.
The old human problems that we run into before because of the different, I don't know, the ego state of being that humans sometimes have. Because it's going to enrich themselves or whatnot.
Matthew, it's just a similar quandary that we have here in connecting consciousness with Simon Parks, on a worldwide level and nationally, and then to the state level is, we don't want to just become another organization, because everyone starts off with an idea and a purpose and a goal, but then they get bogged down with bureaucracy of being another organization. And that's just the pitfall of any operation.
Well, when Simon Parks starts calling it something, I'll adopt that. But I don't have any better idea what to call it. I did want to, however, I know we're running out of time possibly, but I did, have some notes set aside for the alien and UFO topic. Maybe we can revisit it. But I have something I wanted to kind of share, just a short version, rather than going into all the different types of aliens that people have seen or that people know about or I might be aware of. In general, there's two types of extraterrestrial beings. There's physical extraterrestrials, and they have a physical body that is designed for a particular level of consciousness and their planetary habitat. Some can change their shape and morph into humans shapes as well. Like I guess that's common of the Anunnaki reptilian breed. Or species, and basically, grays are another example of that. They have slender, weak bodies because they don't have to shift energy physically. They instead do it on a non-physical plane of thought, which we apparently should be able to do as well as human beings. They've apparently been watching over us and always have, the grays, but there's also a darkness about them too. There's certainly a in between for the reptilian race that lives in the deep, I don't know, 200 miles down into the deep earth. And I believe the tall grays are their contact. And then the shorter grays are the tall grays contacts, and the shorter grays are who basically are the intermediaries between humans and the reptilians. Through that chain of command, I guess, or chain of slavitude. I'm not sure what it would be called, but there's also non-physical extraterrestrials. Those are the folks, those are the extraterrestrials that have been in constant contact with Earth and all of us on a non-physical level. They morph and materialize at will. They appear on a physical, yet they appear as physical, yet are not physical. They can communicate via the third eye, highly evolved so as to consider hostility. And they are the ones that people have a tendency to have visit them when they are meditating, group meditation, that you've seen where, the little light being shows up and looks like he's floating away. So I've seen some interesting podcasts. I can't remember who's the guy who always does those group meditation events. Richard, not Richard Greer, something Greer maybe. But anyway,
Not familiar.
So that is kind of two classes, without going into the deep woods and talking about all the different races. And something I was kind of thinking about is, people have a fear of the unknown. They have a fear of aliens. They don't want to talk about things. It makes them anxious. But if you really want to see an alien, you look in the mirror. We talked about this before. There's indications that our DNA has been manipulated, dozens of times in the past towards an evolution of our species, of the human race. You don't go from Neanderthal to Homo sapien in 300 years without some help. So there's a lot to say about that. But if you think about it, if you know that we all exist, we're eternal light beings that live, our home is this astral plane, this universe, and we're just momentarily, in a blink of an eye, in this bodysuit, this vessel, on this given planet. Well, guess what? The ones who live on Planet X, or the ones who live on that's Nibiru, but the ones who live on Pleiades, or the ones who live on Venus, or the ones who live on this so-and-so planet Sirius, I don't know, the Syrians, whatever that planet is. They are the same. They're the same beings of light, but they're just put in a vessel that is right for their planet and their vibrational state. So there's nothing to worry about. We're all brothers and sisters. And it kind of, imagine once, this, whatever it's going to be called, full disclosure comes, if it's in the guise of a bunch of spaceships that show up in the air and do a light show for us, or if it's going to be like multiple species walking down some carpet to a press conference with the president of the United States someday. We don't know, but there's nothing really to be afraid of. I mean, these beings have been around for millennia, and we have too. And I know they're not all good or altruistic, but the higher vibrational beings tend to be, the ones in the fifth and above dimensions. So it's something that I was just going to kind of say, it's something that you have to consider. We're all the same on the inside. These light bodies, these astral bodies of ours, these beings of light that are eternal. We're all in the same boat, and we may have been in past lives, because we've had countless infinite past lives, and we have infinite future lives, because we are eternal. And we could have been those different beings on their planet. We just don't have the memories. The state of consciousness on this third dimensional Earth, we I would say 99.999% of us have no memory of past lives. It's just part of our story, and part of our evolution, the plan that God has for us. So there's
Matthew, I can barely remember what I did last week.
But anyway, I just thought I'd be a little philosophical rather than go into the woods. Since we don't have really time to go into all the different breeds and all the different players involved that I might know of and that I don't really know of because I've never seen them. But there's a lot of great resources out there, Ancient Aliens, Gaia, just Google. I mean, it's available on Google. Google doesn't suppress this information for some reason. You look up election fraud, you can't find anything. But you look, you look up aliens, you look up med beds, you can find this stuff. So it's interesting stuff, and I think that there's a lot of really good players out there. I'm sure there's a lot of misinformation. I'm sure some of the stuff I talked about today, it might be misinformation, but I've taken the information that sounded right and that matched with my intuition.
Well, I mean, I think you did a good job, because even breaking it down into the 3 different types of med beds was very helpful for me, and then equating it with advanced technology and the idea of UFOs was also very helpful. So that was a good dot connector, and I liked your insight.
I apologize. I don't have a glossary or all my sources. I didn't make note of anything because I've seen so much stuff in the past, and I've written stuff down, and it's all from here and there, and I don't really. But you know what? If you have any questions about something I said, Google it, and you'll probably find the source. So
yeah. Well, I think we're talking about ideas and concepts and the idea of ideas. I will share one thing that Simon did say that I thought was helpful on this topic, and that was that those people who are really, dead, they're very interested in seeing a UFO, and it's their heart's desire to see a UFO or a space alien, have an encounter with a space alien. Those people are probably the most likely not to have an encounter. I thought that was kind of a fun insight. When you mentioned looking in the mirror, it reminded me of that, because if we're not open to seeing even within ourselves, we're not going to see the other in anyone else other. So
yeah.
it's
Well,
a good message.
I think the best message to say right now, because everything's so divided, is that you just got to spread love. You just gotta share love with people, and you can certainly think something stupid. That doesn't take away love, or a person's being ignorant. That's not taking away love, but everyone learns at their own pace, and everyone's going to learn on their own timeline, and that's God's plan, not ours. I mean, you can't force anybody to advance or conform their thinking. It's some people might be more apt to believing you, but that's because they're open. Some people are shut.
Yes.
So
I think being open is good, and being humble, because humility is the beginning of all learning.
mm-hmm.
So,
And I'm
Matthew,
just scratching the surface. So I've been doing this for several years.
Matthew, thank you so much for talking to us today. And it's such a pleasure to have you as a member of Connecting Consciousness Illinois, along with all the really other terrific, great people we've met so far. And I look forward to talking to you again about some of these other topics that you touched on today. So
I appreciate
thank you
it.
so much.
I hope Simon Parks sees this. I'd like to hear what's right and what's wrong, because I want to get my act together.
Matthew, you never know who's watching.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks.
Have a good evening.
All right, talk to you later.